everybody, welcome back to Bassoonists Talk Etudes. My name is Dr. Bellamy, and I am the Assistant Professor of Bassoon at Colorado State University, and I'm joined by my wonderful colleague, Dr. Bennett Cameron, from down at the University of Texas at Arlington, and this is part 2 of our etude preparation series, where we're going to just walk you through what is on our desk when we practice. So what are the tools that we need when we practice? And some of these might look like familiar tools, some of them might look like unfamiliar tools. So I'm going to take a risk here and actually just switch over to a bird's eye view camera and show you literally what my practice space looks like from this morning. Welcome to my practice room. This is the corner of my office where I keep everything kind of permanently set up so that I'm ready to go practicing it at any given point. It's got all my tools already set up. So the things that look the most familiar probably are my metronome that's set up right here. Some of you might be familiar with the Dr. Beat and turning her into a voice so she can yell at you through different rhythms. Sometimes I will alternate this with having my tonal energy app up. So it kind of depends on any given day, but I have it set up for a nice drone function so I can play it loud enough for me to really be able to feel those dissonance beats if I'm super out of tune, or to really feel it lock in when hopefully I'm in tune. And fortunately, I share a wall with our read room here at CSU, so I don't have a neighbor to really make angry with my nice loud drone. So I have the drone function, which I use pretty frequently, and then I also have it, preset with all of our various metronome options. If I ever want to use those at the same time, which I frequently do, that's when I'll plug in our little studio tablet here. You like our little RAM? Isn't he cute? I'll plug in my tablet so I can use something like a tonal energy to run a drone and a metronome at the same time. So that's super important to my practice routine, is having that metronome and tuner set up. You see I've got my phone on hand, not so I can constantly be on the social medias, but with a nice external microphone plugged into it so I can do some reference recordings of myself, or if I feel so compelled to record some of those cute little a cappella duets or anything, sometimes I'll record myself playing the bass line left hand out of a piano part, or a pre-written sort of second component or second part to a duet for an etude, so I can play duets with myself. My little put a bird on it water reads with my read log. So I actually am keeping notes of kind of what I'm using, what reads I'm using for what purpose and how old they are. And then already kind of set up over here, I try to get myself in a situation as safe as it is with the instrument to be able to leave my instrument set up so I can swab out and then put it back together and leave it set up to be ready to practice. I think it's really important for me personally, when we're really hectic in these kinds of times, to actually not have the extra 5-minute barrier of having to put your instrument together. So it can, as silly as it sounds, putting the instrument together can be like the one thing that makes me not want to practice. And so I try to leave it put together. Does that sound familiar? Yeah.
Yes, it does.
It's way too familiar. I'm like, I really want to practice, but I just don't want to soak my reed. Right. So I have everything already set up. You probably saw some electronic equipment from some electric bassoon that I'm doing. And then along with the metronome, I'm going to share one screen with you guys just so you can see a tool that I use that might be a new one, which is a tempo chart. So when I'm preparing for any performance, this sort of documentation prevents me from wasting time in the practice room, I find. So I have a really, I'm very much a type A person if we're committing to those type A or type Bs, in case you couldn't tell by this cute little spreadsheet here.
I would never have guessed.
I like being able to see this, and I like being able to check off exactly what I'm doing. And so the way that this chart works for me, I have my performance. For example, I've got a recital this upcoming Thursday. When is the performance? What is it? Who wrote the piece? What am I playing? So some of the pieces that I'm prepared for. What are the sections of each piece? How fast do they need to go? So this sits right next to my metronome. And then I have a listing of how fast can I play it currently. This is largely just a technical development chart. So it's not I need to go back because I'm specifically in tune. But I think the most important column in this is this guy, limiter. And that's my note to myself of, if that number in my goal is not the same number as that number, why can't I do it? And so I know in this piece, I'm playing Jenny Brandon's Colored Stones. The first movement's called Smoky Quartz. There's a section called Playful. It's supposed to be at quarter note equals 132. I can only play it currently at quarter note equals 126 because my G to E flat slur cracks. So when I go to practice, if I only have 5 minutes in between student lessons, I can go and look, gosh, I have a limiter here. I set my metronome to 126 and I work just on F to G. So that's my
Awesome.
tool desk. What does yours look like? Does it look the same? Is it pretty different?
I mean, honestly, I'm kind of a purist when it comes to practicing. I want my pencil because I only want to make a mistake once. Nobody has time to make the same mistake twice. So if I make a mistake, I mark it the first time. Nobody got time for that. So I have my pencil. I have my metronome, which is for me that's tonal energy. Love that app. Best 299 or 399 or whatever that I've ever spent in my life. I can say that definitively. Um, and then for me, I don't have a beautiful type A spreadsheet. I am a post-it note kind of gal. So I have some post-it notes, like some little clear ones and some others, and I keep my metronome markings just written on the page. And I write metronome markings, like if I have a specific passage that I'm working up, then that isn't the same tempo as the rest of the piece, it's usually slower. I'll just mark it right on the passage, and I'm a crosser outer. So once I've vanquished 80 beats per minute, I put a tick through it and I move up to 82, and I feel really accomplished. And I love scratching out those tempos. And my students also do the same thing because I make them. But I find that when we walk away from a practice session, we have nothing to show for it. Like, we know we're a better musician, but like when I cook, like I have like a nice dinner or a loaf of bread afterwards. Or, if you do an art project, then you have the beautiful thing to look at. And for us, like, we practice for 3 hours and like I got nothing. But I do have those marks on my page, and that makes me feel good. So yeah, I'm a purist. My post-it notes, my pencil, my tuner metronome. That's me.
Love
Um,
it.
yeah, one thing that's really important to me, and I think should be important to all musicians, is having a good reference recording and knowing when to use it and when not to use it. So I like to use reference recordings to help me and my students choose a piece. Like, listen to it, get to know it, like, oh, does this piece speak to me? Do I hate this piece's guts? These are important things to know. So you want to listen to a reference recording early on, and then I like to put them away while I'm learning a piece because I don't want to rely on someone else's counting. I don't want to rely on someone else's, memorizing all of the times that accidental appears in the bar. I don't want to rely on someone else's interpretation. I want to develop my own, and it's important for my students to develop their own interpretations as well. Um, and so I like to learn a piece without using a recording. And then once I'm kind of feeling pretty good about it, and I'm like, okay, I need to double check that I have all my accidentals and my counting. So I do want to listen to a good recording. Or, I'm struggling interpreting this particular phrase, so I want to go and listen to 2 or 3 masters and see how they do it, and then arrive at my own conclusions. But this also brings us to the question of when we're looking for a recording, like, what do we listen to? So let's do just a friendly YouTube search.
Everybody's favorite recording library.
Right, everybody's favorite recording library. UTA has access to the entire Naxos library, and my students just consistently do YouTube instead, but that's okay. You and I are old, and we know when there was no good music on YouTube, but now there is good music on YouTube, so you can find it, but sometimes you have to look. So here we are. I just searched for Weizenborn bassoon. Thank you. We don't need the suggested products. I feel pretty good about that. But you see that it comes up with a lot of different hits. What you want to look for is recordings by professionals. I'm going to say that again, recordings by professionals. Look for a name you know, or if you don't recognize any of the names, look for someone who's maybe a little bit older, and then do a deep dive on their page and be like, okay, does this person look like a professional bassoonist? That's a very important characteristic. That is not to say that if you aren't currently employed that you're a terrible player, because that's not the case. But it does mean that you want to have some kind of bassoon street cred, and those are the people you want to be listening to. Shout out to all of the high school freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors who put recordings of themselves playing their etudes up on YouTube. That takes guts, and I applaud it. However, that's not what we would call a reference recording. You definitely want to rely on professionals. So keep scrolling. So let's look. Terry B. Ewell, that guy's a professional. 2 thumbs up. Kristen Wolf Jensen, 2 thumbs up. That woman is the consummate professional. So these are the kinds of recordings that you want to rely on. These people who have a lot of experience with the bassoon, who are, professional players and teachers. So that's how to find a good reference recording on YouTube.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to note too, when you have a good reference recording, when you add it back in at the end of the process, it can be super useful if you're getting ready to rehearse a piece with a pianist. Of course, you've hopefully already done all of your preliminary score study, but if you really want to know how does it feel to respond to a particular thing in the piano part or to the orchestra, or you just want to get comfortable with it, especially now in kind of coronavirus times when you might be working with very short, very limited rehearsal times, it could be really helpful to have played that a few times with somebody else's piano in your head.
Absolutely, it's really important. So, guys, I would like to thank you for tuning in to our tools for etude study. It's really tools for everything. Anything you work on, all of this stuff is applicable. So subscribe to Bassoonists Talk. I'm Dr. Bennett Cameron. That's Dr. Bellamy. I don't know where she is on your screen. That one. And we're really glad you listened. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.